Contemplation before chanting. The Sangha is invited to come back to our breathing so that the collective energy of mindfulness will bring us together as an organism, going as a river with no more separation. Let the whole Sangha breathe as one body, chant as one body, listen as one body, transcending the boundaries of a delusive self, liberating us from the superiority complex, the inferiority complex, and the equality complex.
From the depths of understanding, a flower of greater blooms. The Bodhisattva stands majestically upon the waves of the thunder, free from all afflictions. A great compassion eliminates all sickness, even that was thought of as incurable. Her wondrous light sweeps away all obstacles and dangers. The willow branch once waved reveals countless Buddha lands. Her lotus flower blossoms
Still testing, can everybody hear? Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. It's very interesting. The first Dharma talk for the retreat is about negative and difficult emotions. Interesting start. I talk quite a bit on that when I'm teaching, when I go out on tour. Sometimes people ask me, why do I talk so much about them? Part of it is my experience, and part of it is the basis of the Four Noble Truths, the teachings of the Buddha. How to overcome suffering. And I think that's why everyone's here today, why we meditate, why we practice mindfulness. It's really a gateway to develop an intimate relationship with ourselves. And that's the foundation of the practice of mindfulness and meditation, is to start to begin to understand ourselves. We start to develop an actual relationship with ourselves. You know, we go through our day, and we even do this as monastics. I do this. We sort of go through life on automatic. We'll get up in the morning. We get the alarm clock, get up in the morning, all right, go to the bathroom, put the robe on, walk to the meditation hall, you know, sit down in meditation. And even for monastics, you know, we could go through monastic life on automatic. And I remember, you know, before I became a monastic, I wasn't born a monk. Although I did have no hair when I was born. So. Going through life on rather automatic and not really being aware of myself, being aware of my feelings or emotions. But we react on them nonetheless. Whether we're aware of them or not, we react. And we see things, we see the world through those emotional-laden eyes. It colors our views of things. Then our views color how we look at the world and at ourselves. So it's a very important topic. And interestingly enough, the world of psychology is just learning about emotions. That's pretty interesting. You know, psychology has begun late 1800s, really, beginning to explore the mind. But they really weren't too interested in emotions. Something you wanted to stay away from, something you needed to, through therapy, get beyond, but not approach them. So finally, psychology is catching up with Buddhism in terms of learning to understand what an emotion is, what the emotions are about, how they affect our lives. We are emotional beings, but yet we don't pay enough attention to them. Or perhaps we pay attention to them when they become crisis mode, being a flood of emotions. So, working with emotions. How to deal with these difficult emotions. We all have them. Even in the best circumstances, we have difficult emotions. Just as we have positive emotions. Now, you're probably sitting here, some of you may have not slept very well. Some may have slept very little. Maybe our bunkmate snores. Maybe we're not accustomed to sharing one room and one bathroom with 6 other people. Maybe this isn't what you expected. Maybe you're feeling a little surly right now. I gotta chop those vegetables too. Gotta come here, lack of sleep, and I've gotta work. And I'm paying for this. It's unfair. Yeah. So we cognize all sorts of things based on our emotions. So the very fundamental aspect is learning about ourselves. The Buddha taught that to overcome these emotions, you do it by not overcoming these emotions. Yeah? Okay. We get rid of these emotions by not getting rid of these emotions. You might say, we work through these emotions. You might say, we become friends with these emotions. You might say, we see these as part of ourselves. But the idea of getting rid of emotions, that does not work. Yeah. Any more than we can get rid of, a hand or an eye. So, understanding ourselves, our emotions, the way we work, the way we operate, that's the basis for mindfulness. So as we practice to calm our minds down, as we learn to be more centered and grounded as a human being, with that, we begin to see more of ourselves. We go through our lives very busy, work, school, play, family, relationships, etc., and we're not always in touch with ourselves. Have a very busy mind, very busy life. And on top of that, we live in a very consumer society. Not only do we consume physical things, but also the media, entertainment, much to keep our minds busy in this world. So mindfulness, meditation, brings us back to ourselves, to learn about ourselves. And that's the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just, okay, let's find this nice, calm space and stay there. That is part of it. But with it comes understanding and learning to develop insight about ourselves. For example, this morning I woke up, I did not want to get out of bed. We just came back from a tour through the Midwest, and it was a wonderful time. It couldn't have been better. But traveling does take its toll, and I'm still adjusting to the early morning schedule. So I did not feel like getting out of bed this morning. And I'm grumbling, okay, I gotta get out of the bed, we've got this retreat going, and grumble, 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 as I reach for my coffee, my motivation. So that for me, that has a potential of putting me in a very bad mood. But I understand that. I understand that my body is tired. I understand that when I'm tired, I get edgy. Yeah? I understand that that also leads to other types of thoughts. Yeah, emotions lead to thoughts. Thoughts lead to more emotions. So I'm aware of that within me. And I can accept that. That's a big part. That's a very big part of dealing with difficult emotions. We want to run away. You know, we want to be in the happy spot. We don't want to be in the difficult spot, right? So we naturally tend to seek the things we like, the things we're comfortable with. We like the easy path. And we do this unconsciously. And we also want to stay away from difficult things, difficult emotions, difficult people, difficult times, etc. And again, we usually do this on an unconscious level. So we can observe our minds going back and forth, staying away from this, going towards that. So here we have a natural tendency to not be around ourselves, you might say. So we learn to be accepting, learning to accept ourselves. And the interesting thing is we come as a package. We're a package deal as a human being. And to accept a part of us but not accept another part of us, it brings into conflict. So not only do you have the difficulty, but you have the conflict of being in a negative state. Because it's a part of us. We fight with ourselves. Because we don't want to be over there, we want to be over there. So we work with that. We learn to let go and to accept what we really are. I totally accept that sometimes I'm a very grouchy individual. And if you don't believe me, you can ask my brothers and sisters who have to live with me. Yeah, see, she knows, she's laughing. And I see that self. I see that in myself. And when we are aware of what this thing I call Fat Vu is about, when you become aware of how you operate, how your mind operates, how your emotions operate, how do you respond to things, Then we have empowerment. That's the power of the Dharma. The empowerment, empowerment of awakening to how we are, things as they are. So we cultivate that practice of mindfulness, that awareness. Sometimes it takes courage to really face ourselves in the mirror. Sometimes we need to take baby steps. Sometimes we jump right in. It's a mixed bag. The human experience is immense. So we practice with these things. We practice to allowing ourselves to be in contact with ourselves, regardless of where that is at. Now, when we come across difficult emotions, and being in the health field, I'm sure everyone here has experienced quite a bit of stress, difficult emotions, the demands from patients, the demands from the bosses, the demands from the corporate headquarters, perhaps. A lot of demands. So we develop a lot of stress. We have to become... Are you aware that you are a stressful individual? Are we aware that we are a stressful individual? That's the first, really the first step. Am I aware I have these reactions? So awareness is the first step, learning about ourselves. I found in my life that there were aspects of myself that I did not accept. It was very challenging. And it wasn't until I began to really learn to accept. Learning to accept. And that's very challenging. Can we accept these difficulties? Can we accept that, yes, I'm in a stressful job, stressful occupation, I feel it, I see it. Learning to accept. And learning to accept means to calming the mind and calming the body. Have you ever noticed that, I don't know for you, but for me, sometimes I can tell when I'm having difficulties by observing my body. I notice a change in my body, a slight change. Then I become aware of what's going on in my mind. Many times it's the other way around. Okay, I'm having difficulties with this situation. Okay. We calm down, then we see the body. So we become aware of the body and the mind. For some reason, we don't usually connect those two. We sort of have this dualistic notion of what it is to be a human. You know, you've got the mind, you've got the body. But these things are very much interrelated. Because emotions and even thoughts don't just abide in the brain. Emotions are part of the whole body. They're neurochemical processes that affect all the cells of the body. So we learn to calm the mind down, calm the body down. And when we do that, we begin to be able to be with what is. To be with what is. Instead of fighting, we call that a second arrow. First you have the infliction, the wound. There's the first arrow. The second one is all the mental stuff we put ourselves through, like the stories. And then sometimes those stories begin to be more stories and more stories. So sometimes we pile it on ourselves, very unnecessarily. So we need to stop, learning to stop that repetition in those stories, because that just feeds right back into us. We are very, we're like a walking, talking, sensing machine, organism. We sense so many ways, consciously and unconsciously, all day long. Our senses are continually working, taking in input, whether we realize it or not. We also intimidate. We mimic. Our emotions mimic. For example, if you're around someone who is angry, your brain wants to mimic that person's brain. Your mind wants to be that other person. So emotions are contagious. And again, this happens unconsciously. So learning to settle the mind and settle the body in order to really be with your difficulty. Thai often talks about the mother holding the baby, the baby being your emotions, your difficult emotions. Don't leave the baby over there crying. We pick it up. We pick up the baby. And that's accepting not only that emotion, but that's accepting ourselves as we are. When we encounter difficulties throughout the day, how do we react? Are we aware? Learning to let go. That is very challenging, and I put the emphasis on learning. We don't easily let go of things. We want to create more things out of things. Learning to let go. That is probably one of the biggest, most significant practices of a monastic, learning to let go. Here we are, we're living in a community. The brothers live in that house over there. There's about 15 in that house that was built for a family of 6. Very cozy. But yet, we can make it work. In the community, we can make it work. And a large part is learning to let go. Now, for monastics, that begins with letting go of our physical wants. Like the car, maybe the hair, clothes. But then we learn to let go of ideas. Then as you invest more and more into the community, you have emotions, you have interactions. We need to learn to let go. Learning to let go. That is an art that I've been a monastic for about 10 years now. I'm still working with. It's a continual process because I'm always coming up with something more. You never notice? I'm just, even at this stage in my life, I'm still coming up with ways to be critical, or ways to be unhappy, or condemning, or why can't the community be more like this? Why can't it be more like that? So these are ideas driven by emotions and moods. So I see these things and I learn, okay, wait a minute. Do I really, first of all, do I want the stuff in my mind? Do I want more negativity in my mind? I feel at this stage I don't need to produce more negativity. The little negativity that develops in my mind, it's enough. I don't want to develop more. So I practice to stop. I see it and I just stop. And that takes a bit of a shift in the mind. One way is to just calm. Another way is to, well, am I sure? Am I sure? Is this the way it really is, or is this just my imagination? Expectations. I want things to be like that instead of this. So I get all worked up about it. So, am I sure? Sometimes, is this the most skillful way to go? That's another question I ask myself. Another is, do I want to put this on other people? Because even though you don't live in a monastery, you do live with or work with people. And do I want to put this stuff on others? And usually it's, no, I don't want to do that either. So a lot of it is a conscious choice. When we practice mindfulness, when we develop this awareness, again, it brings us to a place of empowerment. So we can make these choices. Because we can't stop our minds. Our minds are going to produce and produce and produce one thing or another. I recommend, while you're here, maybe take a day and just observe your mind all day. Where does it go? Where does it lead me to? What are my reactions? And you do this enough, and you develop an empowerment. Mindfulness is a power. We can say, we could put the brakes on things. No, I don't want to go there. Another method I use is kind of bringing in more positive things. Sometimes we call it changing the peg. And that's bringing in more positive things. So instead of getting up today and giving a Dharma talk and being very grumpy and saying, well, why aren't you practicing? You need to practice harder. Everything's okay. Everything is okay. So we change by bringing more positive things in our lives and into our minds. Okay. That helps to enlarge the space within us. Because if we approach our difficulties from a positive place, then that negativity loses its energy. It loses its energy. And it can replace with something good, something beneficial. So replacing something with something else. And you can do that. Sometimes we have very long-standing difficulties. Yeah. How do we approach those things? How do we approach the stress? So, this practice is about transformation. Okay. So we take the mud in our life and we produce the lotus. Everyone likes a lotus, right? Yeah. Do you like the mud? One question I often ask, which is more important? Which is more beneficial, the mud or the lotus? Yeah, the lotus is beautiful. Huh? It's a flower and it's all these nice colors. Yeah. Do you appreciate the mud? Just stick your hand down in there, grab some mud sometimes out of the pond. Yeah. So what's more important, the difficulties of the good or the good times? They're one and the same. Okay. Again, we can't separate. We tend to have a dualistic mind and dualistic views about life. We think we have the difficulties and the mud, and we have really positive, beautiful things with the lotus, and they're two different things, just as we might see the body and the mind separate. But they're one and the same. You can't have one without the other. And that's the nature of phenomena. That's the nature of our minds. That's the nature of how things work in the universe. Everything is interconnected. Our minds create this illusion of separateness. When we suffer, we're separate and lonely. But that is just our mind. That is not true. We are connected in so many ways. But because of our pain, we think we're disconnected. It's sort of like the sun on a cloudy day. You can't detect the sun, but it's still there. Yeah. So we allow the clouds in our minds to drift away. And we'll find, well, the sun is there. It's just our suffering wouldn't allow us to see it. So we're inherently connected. So like this side of the room, all the people over there, so affects that side of the room. And where that divide between over there and over there is, I don't know. So interconnectedness. So human beings have a great capacity. In Buddhism, it is believed that all beings possess Buddha nature. It was asked if a dog had Buddha nature, but we won't go there today. but a Buddha nature. Have you ever thought of yourself as a Buddha? Huh? Are you a Buddha? Dave, are you a Buddha? Yes. Okay, good. Good answer. Yes. We all have that potential in us. We have the potential for great capacities. The capacity for love and understanding. The capacity for great insight. So, look at yourself in the mirror sometime and say, "Hello, Buddha." Yeah. So learn about your great capacity. When we learn about our capacity, we become that capacity. Okay. As much as we think we're stuck in our heads, the brain and the mind is quite fluid. And we have the capacity to change. So what do we want? What do we want to change? What do we want to become? Because we're always in the process of becoming. Moment by moment. Always becoming. We're a fluid, dynamic being. Always changing. The cells in your bodies are always changing. Neural chemicals are always changing. I notice, my back hurts a little more often. This part doesn't grow as much hair. Okay, yeah. The bodies, we're changing, and we always change. And we can change the things of the mind as well. How we perceive things, how we look at things, how we interpret things. It's a matter of what direction you want to take. Intentionality. An intentional life. What are your aspirations for your life? What direction do you want it to go? Because moment by moment, you have that opportunity. Okay, moment by moment. And each moment, we can go that way, or we can go that way, or we can go that way, or we can go that way. Yeah. So as we live in a experience of mindfulness in the present moment, we have the ability to change. So I think I've gone on long enough, and I'd like to... It's okay.
Good morning, dear Thầy, dear Sangha. So Brother Phapu mentioned that we just went to the Midwest tour together. We just got back for a week. So when he said that I have gone enough, too far, and they said you can go longer of his Dharma talk. We met a lot of new people in the Midwest trip. We discussed a lot about stress. I remember that there was a young gentleman, he's Vietnamese, and he studied in Michigan State University. He's from Vietnam, the same region as I was, come from. And we met in the retreat in the university campus. And because he saw that there's two sisters, Sister Nghiem and I, we speak Vietnamese. So he invited us to just go out, and he just wanted to drive us around the campus because it's a huge, beautiful campus. And then during the time that we spent together, he shared a lot with me, with us, me and Sister Nghiem, about stress. When I asked him, how are you really? And he said that I'm stressful. Even though we had ice cream together, we smiled to each other, we enjoyed the campus very, very much. But when we really sat down and I asked, how you doing? And he said, I'm stressful. And I asked him, what makes you so stressful? And it took him a few minutes, perhaps a lot. But he says a lot of deadlines in school. And not just only that, in our daily life, we are facing with a lot of life changes. The change of our physical health, the changes of our mental health, the changes of workplace, of the air, the changes of the water, everything around us. Life changes, make us anxious and fearful sometimes. And in Buddhism, we believe that we are taught or shared with that anxiety and fear give rise to stress. And stress we now today we call it stress response. Stress response equivalent to fight or flight response of our nervous systems. And I like to talk to my mother. Whenever I have time with my mother, I usually ask her about how I was when I was a little girl that I don't remember. I asked her that, tell me the first time you saw me so stressful. And she told me a story about taking me to a dentist. She used to work in the hospital, and she was a good friend of a dentist. And when I was 4 or 5 years old, she took me there so that the dentist can check my teeth. And then she said that in the beginning I was happy to go because she encouraged me to go so that I can have beautiful teeth later on when I grow up. And then when I walk with her to the office, and then I start to be quiet because I was really fearful, or actually I am very fearful of needles. So when I peek in and I saw needles in the office, I start to tense up. I didn't talk, I just sat there. But she realized that I was anxious, worried, and fearful. She says, okay. She started to, embrace me and say, everything gonna be okay, just take a look. And then they got me, and then I met the dentist, and he was very friendly because I'm a daughter of my mother who's his good friend. So he kind of, oh, how are you, really welcoming. And they was able to put me on the chair. And I was really scared. And then my mother was in the how you say, the office, the place with me. And then they got me to lie down. But when the dentist, he started to turn on the light, I start to cry and I scream. And then I look at him and I said, "Turn off the light." And he was so startled, I startled him. And he turned off the light right away, and my mother just took me out of the office. So it's my stress response when I was a little child. And there's something that is wonderful to talk to mother, father, asking about who we were or who we are. We learn a lot from other people of how they say with us, the way they look at us, or who we are that we sometimes don't really know. And after I talked to the young gentleman in Michigan State University, he also said with me that he was very glad that we had a retreat there with him and other students, because it gives him a sense of coming back. Stop being so worried, contemplate. Because we said with him, especially the Dharma talk of Brother Babu or the serene of Sister Pai, one of our sisters from Plum village, our men center from France, he also came to the retreat with us. And from our serene, he said that he learned that he appreciates the serene about the practice of being stop being so worried, so anxious, so fearful, and then contemplate based on the teaching of the Buddha, the very most famous foundation teaching of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths. And I love that teaching explained by Brother Babu during the tour. Very simple, but it's helped a lot of people. So that's the presence of ill being, stress. Okay. That's the path leading to ill being. Anxiety, fear, strong emotion, and the third is there's a presence of the end of ill being, and the fourth, there's a way leading to the end of ill being. Very simple. So we don't have to be fearful of stress. We know that medical school, doctors, they know that medicine cannot help all the illness of our modern time. So they try to find another method. And there are lots of doctors and science now get to know about meditation. And there's a lot of studies so that meditation can help cure cancer and many other illnesses except AIDS, HIV. Not yet proved. And we all know that meditation is the practice of stop and contemplate. How to stop being anxious and fearful. It's very easy. The Buddha taught us just let go, release. A Zen student came to ask his teacher, his master, how can I release my stress? And the Zen master said that, show me your stress. And the Zen student, he had to run away before he got beaten up by the master. How can you show a stress? It's not a concrete thing. It's not allocated anywhere from our body. It's just the universal energy. But when the teacher said, drop it, release it, those who practice, just release it, let go. I mean, it's like I hold a pepper, and you say, let go. And I just let that pepper, and it just go away. But for us, when we don't have that determination, when we don't have that energy of mindfulness, of concentration and insight, of letting go, it's really hard. So the Buddha, he was very compassionate. He has more teaching, more practices for us of how to let go. Our teacher, wherever he goes, he introduced the practice of mindful breathing to all of us. Yesterday in the orientation in the evening, Sister Juva and Marisala has already shared a lot about the practice of mindful breathing. In, out, breathing in, breathing out is very famous practice of Plum village tradition. The Buddha said that be mindful of our breathing. We can bring our mind back to our body. And there we can travel happily in the present moment. And then we can be ourselves, not pulled away by the energy of anxiety or fear that lead to stress. And then when we practice the practice of mindful breathing, breathing in, breathing out, we pay all our attention to our breathing. When we have strong emotion, the Buddha taught us that just like we encounter, just like a tree encounter a storm, and the Buddha suggests us to come back to the trunk of the tree, but not to stay up on the top of the tree. And the top of the tree is represent for our thinking, our worries, our fear. We come back to the trunk because the trunk is more solid. The top of the tree is playing a very high risk of being damaged. But if we go back to the trunk of the tree, then we're safe. Just like the tree, when we encounter a strong emotion, namely fear, stressful, anger, we come back to our breathing, especially focus on our energy point, which is a little bit below our navel. Chinese medicine calls Tan-tin. Tan-tin is the energy point, just right here. And this energy point is really has many roots that rooted down solidly to the earth. So come back at our energy point here and be mindful and just stay with our in-breath and out-breath, with the rising and the falling of our abdomen. And when we focus, when we concentrated, the energy of fear, of anger will subside. Also, the Buddha taught us the practice of releasing tension. That is the 4 exercise of the 16 exercise of the Buddha introduced us to the practice of mindful breathing. The first one is breathing in. I know that I'm breathing in. Do it with me. Breathing out. I know that I'm breathing out. Simply in simply out. And then the second exercise, to be aware of the long or short of our in-breath and our out-breath. Like this morning, Brother Thang were in the guided meditation, he changes a little bit the word of this exercise, like following my in-breath from beginning to the end. Following my out-breath from the beginning to the end. Just simply means that we stay with our in-breath and out-breath. Don't let go. Don't let thoughts interfere into our breathing. Our in-breath and our out-breath, just stay with it. And then the third exercise that the Buddha introduced is that being aware of our whole body from head to toes. And then the fourth exercise is to release the tension of our whole body. So 2,600 years ago, the Buddha already introduced us the remedies for stress, which is releasing tension. In 1975, Dr. Benson, he is the doctor of Harvard Medical School. He had a research and test to see the effect of meditation to the body and mind. In the book called Relaxation Response, he said that through his study, and he has found that meditation has big impact affected to body and mind. The slower the wave of brain, we release a lot of tension. We release a lot of tension and ache and pain of our muscles, of our body, and even of our mind. We become more calm, more relaxed. And many other studies that show that meditation, the practice of mindful breathing, can help a lot. Can help with curing cancer and many other illnesses that caused by tension. Say that the practice of mindful breathing can help us to be aware more of our heart rate, our blood pressure, our lungs. And believe it or not, all of our bodily system, namely nervous system, metabolism system, digestive system, everything that relates to breathing, our breath, the air. So true love, to have love for our body, is to practice the practice of mindful breathing. So that all of the cells in all of the system in our body can rest, can relax a little bit, and can enjoy the air, life. And also there's another teaching that our teacher Thang, he introduced with us of how to release tension when we have strong emotion or stress is to smile. Because we're stressful and we're so anxious and we forgot the practice of mindful breathing, so we become more fearful of stress and then we forget to smile. There's a story that a young man came and asked Thang, why you suggested us to smile? Why I don't feel happy at all? How can I smile? Why do you have to talk about smiling? I'm not happy. And this is how he responds to the young man. He said, dear friend, I don't ask you to smile or to pretend that you're happy, but I just invite you to do a little bit of yoga of the mouth. You can do yoga of the arm, yoga of the leg, yoga of the body. You can even do headstand yoga. So why not do the yoga of the mouth? Just a little bit of incline or raise the corner of your mouth a little bit. But he said it's a very wonderful practice because it helps release hundreds of muscles in our face, and when our face relaxed, it helps relax our nervous system, our brain also. So he suggested us to smile when we listen to the bell. So he suggested us to smile when we have free time, or actually to do yoga of the mouth, to relax the tension. He also suggested us to smile when we have strong emotion, because it helps releasing the tension. And he also said that the Buddha, he didn't really leave anything behind when he entered paranirvana. All of his teaching actually is there forever there. He was just a teacher. He's a teacher that just reminds us all of this capacity that we enable, that we can do. But he just left behind him a smile, releasing tension. So it's an invitation for us to not to be fearful of stress. Stress is part of our life. We don't want to eliminate stress because stress comes from life change. Life changes. And but we know how to practice so that stress don't overwhelm us, so stress don't paralyze us. So there's a lot of many other practices for many traditions, for many studies. So when we have time, we just learn about it, more about it. Because if we deny stress, then we cannot encounter or we cannot experience our cells' growth, maturation. Because part of life, actually stress is life. So don't be fearful. Because we have the practice of mindful breathing. Because we have the practice of releasing tension. Because we have the practice of the Four Noble Truths. We know this is the path of leading to the end of ill being. So enjoy the path, that path. And also we have the practice very convincedly of practicing the Fourth Noble Truth, which is the 5 mindfulness trainings that will be introduced with us soon in this retreat. So enjoy practicing it ourselves or together with the Sangha, the community. And also we have the practice of smiling. So no worry. Thank you.